Do you really own an idol? Alvin asked, his eyes locked on the old man's face. Yes, the stranger confirmed. An American bald eagle, Alvin shrugged. Well, maybe it just flew away. The old man glared at him. It couldn't have, he said tersely. It's dead. Alvin was beginning to think the man was crazy. It is not a pet. It is a beautifully preserved stuffed eagle, the old man explained. It is from Alaska and is worth a lot of money. Alvin rubbed his pointed chin. The sunlight glistened on his gel-slicked hair. It was always cut very short at the side, which seemed to make his ears stick out. And because his ears sprouted up from the top of his head, he looked a bit like a carrot. But who wants to steal a dead eagle? He wondered out loud. That's what I wanted you to find out, the old man told him. You and your investigators. I've been reading all about your cases. You found the Rogers ruby, and you cracked the kidnapping of the purple pop star. So now I want you to find my eagle. Alvin felt disappointed. The last thing he wanted to do was look for a dead bird. It sounded so boring. Alvin liked citing cases, not chasing around after a stuffed eagle. The old man must have read Alvin's mind. He clung to his arm. Please, you must help me, he begged. Alvin studied the ground's face, lined with worry, and relented. My headquarters is just up ahead, he said. Let's go there and talk. Alvin led the way along the street to his headquarters, which everyone knows is located behind his mother's jewelry shop. Once it had been the storeroom, but she let Alvin take it over for his detective club. Now the cramped concrete wall space looked more like a police squad room. Whaling's collection of criminal records bulged in a box stacked on a shelf. Photographs of sinister criminals stared down from the wall behind her desk. The room had its own entrance into the car park. On the small window of the door was a big sign, designed by Mars Wang on her computer. It announced, So-and-so investigators. We investigate anything, no case too big or too small. When they entered, Whaling was already there clipping crime stories from the morning newspapers. Her white t-shirt had been crisply ironed, and so had her blue jeans. She looked up in surprise when she saw Alvin's visitor. The central desk, where everyone sat, was an old wooden table at which Alvin invited the old man to pull up a chair. This is Tan Whaling, Alvin announced, one of our most senior investigators. Whaling blushed and gave the old man a little wave. Alvin sat opposite their new client, noting how his shoulders seemed even more stooped when he was seated. His skin was very pale, almost translucent, and networks of little veins crisscrossed his cheeks. His eyes had a watery glimmer. The top of his head was completely bald. It looked like a big egg pointing up from a fringe of a wispy gray hair. No wonder he liked bald eagles, Alvin thought. The old man introduced his name. My name is Jung, he began. Professor Julius Jung. You see, I have made the study of birds my life's work. Ornithology is called, a branch of zoology dealing with birds. When I was in Alaska years ago, I purchased a stuffed American bald eagle and brought it back with me. It was the highlight of my collection, which I keep in my home. Professor Jung reached into his throat pocket, pulled out a color photo of the bird and placed it on the table. "But it's got feathers all over its head," said Alvin, glancing furtively at the professor's dog. "It's not bald at all." "I suppose the white feathers on its head make it look bald when it's in flight." John smiled faintly, running a hand over his own bald head. Alvin leaned forward, drumming his fingers on the table. "Professor, when you said your eagle was stolen, did someone actually break into your home and take it?" John averted his gaze. "I suppose so." Wailing looked up, puzzled, from where she'd been making notes in her incident book. "Were any windows broken?" she wanted to know. "Do you see any signs of forced entry?" Professor John gave an odd, vague shrug. "I can't remember." "Well, when did you notice the eagle was missing?" Alvin pressed for more information. "Last week," the old man replied. "And that's when you told the police?" Alvin asked him. "No." Professor John looked alarmed. "They wouldn't be interested in a missing eagle. They're too busy solving bigger cases." "But you have to report stolen things to the police," Wailing insisted. The old man shook his head vigorously. "I don't want them involved," he snapped. "I don't want police running all over my house. They might disturb my birds." Wailing made a note, the little muscle in her cheek twitching near her beauty spot. It always did that whenever she was annoyed or suspicious. Just then the door opened and Azizu strode in from the car park. He wore a bright purple hoodie and his usual baggy shorts and dumped his fishing rod on a chair. He looked surprised to see the old man talking to Alvin and Wailing. "What's happening?" he asked, and Alvin quickly explained the mystery. Azizu fiddled with his cap, much of Wailing's secret annoyance. She thought it was a silly habit. One day she told herself she'd toss his cap under a bus or something. "We should tell Sergeant Sue," Azizu suggested. "The professor wants us to handle the case," Alvin said. "Then we should go to his house and look around," Azizu grinned. "Great thinking, Azizu," Alvin agreed. He shot a curious glance at the old man who was nervously rubbing his hand. "What time would be convenient, Professor Jung?" The professor asked them to be at his house at 8 o'clock that evening. "I have a lot to do today," he added, scribbling his address on the back of the photograph. "I will be home by then." He leaned across the car park and Alvin watched him go. He rubbed his pointed chin. "It doesn't make sense," he decided. "Why make so much fuss about a dead bird? Maybe it's stuffed with gold or something," Azizu wondered out loud. Studying the photo of the bald eagle, he flipped it over and stared at the professor's address. "He must be a real bird freak. Look at the name of his house. It's called Birdwalk." Wailing set down her pencil firmly. "I think it's very strange that he doesn't want the police involved." She shot Alvin a wary glance. "Do you think he's got something to hide?" Meanwhile, in the city's newest shopping mall, Miles Wong led Rafi Lim into yet another boutique. Miles, wearing a new pair of denim shorts and a cropped tee, had already spent almost all her holiday allowance on clothes. That morning she discovered a cute little patchwork skirt, and now she desperately wanted a pretty pair of ballet pumps to go with it. She glanced up at Rafi, casually dressed in a long-sleeved Henley and dark bootcut jeans. His real name was Rafferty, but everyone called him Rafi. He was so handsome he looked like a member of a boy band. Mars knew that Rafe knew that she was the only doll in his life. She also knew that Rafe was the only boy in the whole city, and possibly the whole world, who enjoyed spending money and clothes as much as he did. When Rafe's mobile phone played its brand new ringtone, she hoped it wasn't Alvin with some new mystery to solve. So when she heard Rafe repeating Alvin's message, "Tonight at 8 o'clock," her temper fled. Rafe had promised to take her to watch a new horror movie that evening. It wasn't that much like horror flicks, but when she got scared, she could snuggle against Rafe in the darkness and feel safe. "Can't Alvin do without you?" she demanded. "Just for one night." Rafe threw her one of his boyish grins, and Mars felt her heart melt. "Okay," she sighed reluctantly, "but you owe me, Rafe Lim."